Hey, this is the antisocial socialite back at it again. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you're new to the channel, you have not yet subscribed, please hit the subscribe button, smash the notification bell. So when I get to running this mouth, baby, you are in the loop. I don't even know what to call this video. I was like, Corona update news. I don't even know if I can put that in the title without getting the video taken down. So I'm just looking at some of the bits and pieces going on out here, and I'll start with the one that's at the top of my mind right now. There were some other things that I saw recently in the paper, just one thing that's really stuck out to me, and that was Boris Johnson, we know is the UK Prime Minister, and he has, allegedly come down with this virus. He wasn't looking very well, and he was rushed to intensive care after trying to ride it out at home, being quarantined. And it was so funny because yesterday, when it was announced, I believe yesterday or the day before, that he went to intensive care, the news report was asking a doctor, I'm assuming who she was, what kind of treatment would Boris be getting? Because we know that vaccination and testing are the buzzwords of the day right now. Everybody's talking about the importance of a vaccine, and they're talking about the importance of testing. Now, we know testing, especially at this stage, is completely irrelevant. Some people say it's been irrelevant from day one, but it's definitely irrelevant now, because the number of people who allegedly are infected is so high that even if today you don't have it, chances are you do the test, you get a negative result, you could come in contact with somebody tomorrow and get it. There's a story out there about bus drivers that are dying. The one that I heard about was a gentleman who had asthma. Again, respiratory problem, underlying condition, at least one issue of asthma. So I'm not saying that, condolences to his family, but this virus took his life allegedly because he had an underlying condition, especially in the lungs. Again, people are saying that places with high pollution, drivers are going to suffer from respiratory problems because they're always sitting in traffic. Yes, you have the window wound down, but you're still driving. You're still going to be impacted by fumes. So, but that's not what I wanted to talk about. When the lady was asked, what kind of treatment will Boris be getting? Because we all want to know, is the vaccine ready? Is the life-saving drug? Is antiretrovirals for HIV or anti-malarials going to be the choice drug? I don't think Boris had any of those. And the lady said, well, there's two things, he's going to have expert care and basically equipment. And I thought, so basically you're not going to give him anything different than what he's getting at home. And I think that must have been the day before yesterday. So yesterday, the lady came out and she said, we gave him oxygen. I think it's Dana Ashley. She put out a great video, and a number of people have put out videos talking about how the issue with this virus is not that the people cannot breathe. It's that their lungs are so damaged, the tissue and the air sacs of the lung, like if anyone's ever done or seen the cross-section of a lung, the skin or the lining or the wall of the lungs, when you cut through it looks like bunches of grapes. It's got that kind of broccoli or tree-like look because that increases the surface area of the lungs to increase the amount of oxygen that can pass through the tissue into the bloodstream. These air sacs, as most people know by now, is called alveoli, and they become damaged, they become inflamed. And one of the reasons why I believe people develop pneumonia is because as they become infected, the body's last-ditch attempt to try to rectify the problem is to flood the lungs with immune cells like cytokines, and that fluid builds up and that causes pneumonia. Okay? But the alveoli become so damaged that air cannot cross that barrier into the blood. So people are not dying because they cannot breathe, which is the purpose of a ventilator, to help the person actually take breaths. They're dying because their oxygen level is dropping too low because they cannot get it into the bloodstream. So I thought it was so funny how, and this is the other thing, a lot of people are now talking on social media about conspiracies, about the government trying to kill us, some more than usual. You know, the government trying to implement a lot of things. Like I said, I personally found it quite funny that key workers are only supposed to be on the road, and that's banks, post office workers, you know, the postman is still delivering mail. If it's a bill, just keep it. You know, you've got obviously medical staff and health professionals, and then you've got the people doing virgin fiber optic cables. I was like, I didn't know that fiber optic cables was key work. But yes, every single day, even at night, they are out here digging up the roads and connecting all their little wires together. And I'm thinking, I don't want to put on a tinfoil hat on my tinfoil hat, but I'm like, did you just want everybody off the road so you could get on with what you wanted to do without anybody seeing? Like, if anybody goes outside their house and finds a tower's just appeared, then you know what's up. But beyond that, it's like the fact that Boris Johnson was put on oxygen when I haven't heard anybody talking about oxygen, it's kind of like a bittersweet. I feel like the truth community and people who claim to be trying to expose things and, you know, the so-called truth movement, whether you're atheist, whether you're kind of like a alien reptilian agenda like David Icke, or if you're even somebody who is more like on a Christian truth perspective, I feel like we're being used as a controlled opposition, if that's the right word. The fact that we're exposing and talking about these things, and a lot of people seem to be in agreement on a number of things, but there's just a handful of items that are just, we just disagree on. It can be that small margin of difference that causes confusion, and just basically people, they get bombarded with too much information, and instead of coming to the truth, they're ever learning but never able to actually come to the truth. This is one of the reasons why I kind of felt really, and I don't want to say led, like God said make this video, but just like, you have to tell the people that this is not really a battle to do with, you know, 5, you know, that letter after F. I bet anybody the letter after F is not the one I want. It's like 5Z. It's like, oh God. You know, 1, 2, 3, 4, and the letter after F. I mean, they're not going to demonetize or scrap this video. I mean, it's like 5 people watching, but okay, let's just keep moving. And you know, it's not just about the economy, it's not just about a virus, it's not just about a global takeover or a one-world government or a one-world currency or a one-world religion, although we have to get to the one-world concert. And who is headlining? Lady Garbage herself. I mean, come on. It's like, you have people getting up there talking about, like the guy from My Pillow talking about, we need to return to family values, we need to return to God, we need to return to traditionalism, use this time to worship God. But then at the same time, you have somebody who every opportunity she gets appears as either a fallen angel or a demon, and she's like, I'm going to give so much money to charity. And it's like, the things you sing about are revolting. The way you present yourself is disgusting. You promote satanic agendas, and the people can say, well, that's a conspiracy theory. But let's just keep it all the way 100. When you look at Lady Gaga's music videos or her appearances or her outfits, do you see anything godly in those performances? Do you see anything normal? Do you see anything sane? Do you see anything wholesome? Nothing. But these are the kind of people that are going to be elevated as saviors in this end time. The Christians will be demonized, and those people who practice wickedness openly, who say in interviews, hail Satan, and I sold my soul to the devil. These are the kind of people who everybody will be cheering. It's literally like when Jesus and Barabbas were were being tried and they said, who do you want us to release? They turned around and said, give us Barabbas. The humanity is looking for Barabbas because they want a wicked person, not a normal, healthy, happy person. You see, I don't want to be suspicious about everything, but I'm kind of looking and I'm keeping an open mind. The guy from My Pillow, and I know I've come off Boris and his oxygen, but I'm going to go back to it. When it comes to Boris and this whole, no, not Boris, lie, the My Pillow guy, when I looked at the video, he seemed genuine. The way he's fumbling the paper, the way he's kind of nervously looking over at Trump, like, can I just say what I really want to say? I don't feel like it was a setup. I don't know if they allowed him because maybe he could say, well, I wanted to do a speech and tell people about Christ and they told me I wasn't allowed to say that. I thought this was a Christian country. So it's kind of like, just let the guy say what he wants to say and then get him off the podium quickly, right? But the backlash that he got is indicative of the kind of world we live in now. And when we hear about saints being persecuted and Christians being persecuted, it makes it very clear that I'm walking on the street. This is so funny. And somebody has scribbled on the ground, stop 5, the letter after F. And I need to go back to that because that's really interesting, right? And I forgot where I was. Okay, so you have this guy, he gets up and he says something that should be well received in a so-called Christian country, and yet the guy just got dragged. But I bet you any money, Lady Gaga will be looked at as a hero and all these other celebrities. And the title, you know they're doing it to wind us up, okay? You know that they know that conspiracy theory videos draw a large crowd. There is a huge number of people in the so-called truther community, people who are starting to believe that the conspiracy theories are true. And so obviously, if you latch on the words one word, and it's frustrating because the mental gymnastics that I have to do is too much. When they sing these songs, like I told you, there was a concert where Jews, Muslims and Christians are singing together in, I believe, Israel. They're singing Bob Marley's One Love. There's other videos, the Tyler Perry one, he's got the whole world, one world. There's other videos where you have this compilation style of different artists coming together and they're singing John Lennon, Imagine, and all the people be as one. So they have been pushing this one world unity, we're all in this together is one of the slogans of this crisis. They've been pushing all of these notions through celebrities and the mainstream media. They know when you say these kind of things like global this or one world that, a lot of the conspiracy theory people are going to jump on it, and it's going to draw traffic to whatever they're doing, because we're going to be like, see, they are trying to implement a one world system. And it's like the more we highlight it, to an extent, is the more we help it to come to pass, because they want publicity for the things that they're doing. It's like the catch-22. If you don't say anything, they'll push forward anyway. If you do say something, you just expose it, which is going to intrigue some. And this is why I said to you about the 5 thing being funny. We had instances of people here in the UK starting to sort of burn down towers, okay? And it's kind of like, oh, now we all know that mainstream media is having to address conspiracy theories because, you know, too many people are starting to think maybe there really is, you know, either the government has caused this or they're utilising it because it's useful to them, okay? But in so attacking the towers, or I was even thinking like, people are saying, why don't you just, like, you are outnumbering politicians like millions to one, why don't you just kind of storm houses of parliament or something and like do the protests and things? Because allegedly this was a biological weapon that was created to disperse protesters in China. Okay? So if that's really true, we can see that the government can find ways to kind of sort people out if they want to. But beyond that, you know, rebelling will cause greater retaliation. You know, yesterday I was talking to somebody in the street, and this lady passed and just starts screaming at us, why aren't you social distancing? Where's your social distancing? You know, I've told you, like, people will see you coming towards them in the street and they would rather take their chances diving in the road than actually just walking past you like a normal person. The way people have been so conditioned in this short amount of time through fear means that, you know, you have neighbours snitching on neighbours, people looking all paranoid as soon as you cough. It's like, it's completely gone off the scale. So it's not hard to believe that you could have a totalitarian state where everybody's living in fear because they're so, you know, dedicated to what the government has said. Because we see already in a short space of time, our whole existence has been turned upside down. Okay? And the reason why I say that is because one of the things that has come out is that ventilators do not help people. They actually can make them worse. What people really need is oxygen. And I find it very strange that when asked, the lady didn't tell us that she was planning, or they were planning to give Boris oxygen. But yet, when he pulls through, they reveal that all he needed was some oxygen. Okay, it's very strange because people are going to say, well, why are you pushing vaccines? Why are you making a big deal about testing if all people needed was, you know, oxygen? Maybe oxygen under pressure. You know, they're making this big deal about all these Nightingale hospitals and hospitals that are popping up all over the place. But the reality is this, those hospitals and even regular hospitals are sitting empty because people do not need them. So my question now really becomes, are they just toying with us? You know, are they playing with us because they know that, you know, the conspiracy theories have kind of come to a head now where there's nothing that's really hidden. So maybe trying to hide it more in plain sight is the way forward. Or maybe it's just they're kind of trying to lead you off in a wrong direction. Like, you know, planting, you know, actual controlled opposition in the truth movement. I mean, we don't want to get sidetracked by looking at every wind of doctrine or theory that's out there. But at the same time, there's something going on, and to me, it's undeniable. So when you look at how certain conditions are affecting people at a younger age, we have more people that are depressed, more people that are unhealthy, more people that are growing up in dysfunctional environments. You know, it's hard to believe that this is just naturally occurring. We know that, you know, wars, all of the end time markers, shall we call them, they have been in existence since forever. So that's not new. Earthquakes didn't just start suddenly happening. Locusts didn't just start coming on the planet. But it's the frequency and it's the intensity of these events. And for me, even that wasn't really what has made me think, you know, in terms of Christ's return, things have taken a turn. What has really made me feel like things have come one step genuinely closer is the ramping up of technology. You know, technology that didn't exist or wasn't mainstream or widely known or believed to be possible, you know, not that long ago, is now, you know, is commonly is commonly thought of. You know, people don't look at it as science fiction anymore. They just think of it as it feels like I'm living in a science fiction movie, but they're readily accepting of the technology more. They don't even necessarily, I don't know how much they really fear it or how much they really think this would be a bad thing, because the way it's presented is that it's convenient. You know, it's convenient to have Alexa. It's convenient to have a smartphone. It's convenient to have a computer. It's convenient to have the internet. And people, as they get attached to that convenience, they don't want to go back to doing it the old-fashioned hard way. And so part of me feels like that is part of the plan, to make people want, you know, the mark or whatever it is that they're going to implement, because they feel it's a necessity that's just going to make life easier. And so the technological advances and what we're hearing about Agenda 21, that's the next thing I wanted to say. The Olympics in Wimbledon have been postponed till next year. So we had Event 201, where, Bill Gates is talking about the possibility and the eventuality of a global pandemic. And then a few months later, ta-da, we have a global pandemic with the lockdown and the shutdown, and it's a coronavirus. I mean, like I said, there are people who say that, China was battling this coronavirus or whatever this outbreak is for months before they told anybody. So if Bill Gates was aware that there was a problem in China, it's not necessarily so much that he created it. He just knew it was potentially coming because he already saw how that virus was ravaging China. And it's like, if people are traveling in and out and taking this virus all over the world, it's only a matter of time before it spreads. So he wasn't saying, I'm just going to pick a hypothetical situation out of the air. No, he already had a heads up that there was potentially a problem on the horizon. He didn't necessarily want to come out and say, actually, at the moment, China's suppressing the fact that they've got a flu outbreak. So if it gets to this stage, because the first thing people will say is, if you knew there was a potential outbreak, number one, why didn't you do more to get testing done? Why did you let it spread? Why didn't you lock down the countries sooner? Why didn't you do more to prevent it getting to this stage? Especially if you say it's as bad as it really is. If it's genuinely killing thousands of people and it's so aggressive and blah, blah, blah. If you knew, why didn't you do something about it? So then people really will be like, no, this government's trying to kill us, man. Because they knew months ago but didn't do anything. And that's why I say testing is irrelevant. Testing is relevant when you have no cases. So if there are cases, you can isolate those individuals. Saved by the Bell. Oh, I forgot what I was saying now. So if, testing doesn't make any sense once the spread has become so wide. To be honest with you, once you let it get to that level, the only thing you really can do is quarantine people and lock down. That way, anybody who's infected will only just infect their immediate family as long as they don't go out. I mean, but once you get a number of people who are that sick, there's no real reason to test anymore, because unless you have a place with no cases and you want to keep it as a place with what appears to be no cases, you can't really stop the spread anymore through testing. It's too late. So all this talk about ventilators and testing is just a red herring. It's just to send you on a trail that is false, because testing won't help anything and ventilators don't save people. So Boris Johnson being given oxygen is very telling that they are watching what social media is saying. A lot of people are saying, as they're starting to talk about the connection with 5G, 5C, fig juice, I don't know. Fig juice, that's what I'm going to call it from now on. videos are being taken down, people are getting strikes and things like that because, again, people are talking about the conspiracy, but there's a little bit of misinformation going on. I think that's where I'll go next, because I'm just wandering through my mind, the forest of my mind. People are trying to push this narrative that everybody is saying that somehow this virus occurred because the radiation from fig juice mutated it. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is fig juice has been linked to a number of health problems. And if you have a virus that is easily transmitted from person to person and it affects respiration, if you have people who have suppressed immune systems, and we have suppressed immune systems for a number of reasons. We are taking a lot of drugs. We are overworked. We're exhausted, which makes us tired. It makes us susceptible to disease. We're fatigued. We're constantly under a lot of stress. Stress suppresses the immune system. So when you really think about it, we have bad food, often poor quality food, I should say. Some people, we have health problems in terms of obesity. Obesity has a lot to do with health problems, especially in the West. So when you introduce something like a virus that's going to attack the lungs, it's not hard with all the pollution and the issues. Like even in London, they're complaining all the time about how many people die every year from breathing bad air. And it's strange. That's why I said to you, I was insulted when people come from Asia wearing a mask, because I'm like, I know our air is nothing compared to what you have to suffer in your own country. But I suppose they have respiratory problems because of the air that they've been breathing in their countries. So in places that have poor air quality and lots of pollution, and people probably have a lot of lung damage as a result of pollution, they're going to be hit severely with a virus that attacks the lungs. Like the bus driver who passed away, he had asthma. We don't know how bad his asthma was, but he's somebody who's susceptible to an illness like this because he's already got an underlying condition. His job exposes him to pollution, and this is something that attacks the lungs. And I haven't looked at the case in any detail. This is just conversation I was having with somebody, but I wouldn't be surprised if that wasn't the only underlying condition he had. Okay. So there's a lot of things going on, and it's like, are the truth community being used as controlled opposition? Are we being played in order to kind of bring us closer to martial law? Because if people are starting to go off as vigilantes, this will give people the excuse to say you need to bring a heavier hand. Fining is not enough. Prison is not enough. We need to get the army out on the streets. So it's kind of like we've gone past the point of no return. Whether you try to expose, whether you try to fight, whether you try to warn people, whether you try to just pretend like it's not happening, you really don't have any way to turn, because whichever way you turn, they're still going to bring this thing to pass. And like I said, it's not about, what the Rothschilds or the Rockefellers or the Freemasons are doing anymore. Technology in and of itself, the fact that people like Bill Gates think that mandatory vaccination is the way forward, and, a lot of RFID chipping and, facial recognition and heat signature recognition, and, we can, measure the temperature of your face. So what I can really say now is we just have to look up. This is about faith. This is about just, clinging to what we know to be true, seeking out the truth and just living it, because I do feel and believe that we've gone to the point of no return now. If they're talking about more and more people coming to live in the cities and no longer being really in rural lands, a lot of businesses and independent living has kind of collapsed. I know for a long time they didn't want people to homeschool. In certain places homeschooling was even outlawed. They don't want people to have autonomy. They don't want people to have freedom of choice, freedom of speech, freedom of thought. There's only certain avenues of expression that are acceptable, and if you don't comply with what is deemed, politically correct, then you're a bigot, you're a hater. And so we're really living in challenging times, because what is called right is wrong, or what is elevated as good in the eyes of God is evil. And so these are perverse times, these are strange times, but as I said before, do not fear, be of good cheer. We know that the enemy uses fear. Even the scripture tells us that men's hearts will fail because of fear in these times. And we can see that, that's the biggest tool that's been used, really, because of the unknowns. Everybody's just walking around in fear. We don't really know what's going on. We don't really know if there's a virus. We don't really know. We're just trusting and believing what we're being told, and it's causing people to panic. As I said yesterday, a woman is screaming at me because I'm talking to somebody and, I'm not socially distancing. And I'm not saying I don't socially distance, but at that particular moment, I did not. And a lady just randomly passing with her partner is screaming at us. People diving into the road because they're so afraid to walk past you in the street. And it's like, well, how many people have you come in contact with? And, of more contagious viruses than this that actually, I know one person personally who died and they tested positive for coronavirus. But guess what? They were like nearly 100 years old. Actually, it was a friend who told me about this lady that we know. Okay? She's in her 90s. She is somebody who is elderly, frail, and susceptible to a disease like this. And I believe regular seasonal flu is killing more people than this virus has killed. So just because a person tests positive for coronavirus doesn't mean to say that they have CV-19. So anyway, I'm not going to go back into it. Let me know what you think in the comments section. Is the truth community being used as controlled opposition? Are they trying hard to dismiss the fact that, okay, fig juice doesn't cause a virus to mutate like this necessarily, but it does have other health complications associated with it that they're trying to suppress and deflect from? Is this the end times? Is this really what Revelation 13 talks about? Or is this just the beginning of the end? Like, share, subscribe, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace.